Hello, America. Judge Napolitano, judging freedom. The hyper-evidential shows how good people can be maintained evil. The hyper-evidential shows that we have the experts, the value of expertise used for where you're not supposed to use that. And the causes of it, even when they're truths, those truths are being and have been used for lies, black people. This is inseparable. How we've had the course in the way nature communicates with how, where, and how, and why. We have black people as whites of eyes at the same time. We have the same color eyes. We have different color eyes at the same time. See, nature uses truth and lies in the value of the difference, the ways we know, but also ways hyper-additional. But the ways we know, with nature is not allowed to use this way. Nature is hypernated pure. It shows president/chief. It shows without the existence of Native Americans having been on the side of the hyper-evidential, the hyper-simultaneous, at the same time with James Madison's plan to get the Constitution unabridged from out of nowhere. He knew they couldn't do it in his lifetime. Then they went and got George Washington to agree to help that plan. So you guys have sequence shift self-value with the types of experts A through Z. The beginning of the Old Testament, the beginning of the Quran. I'm a pantheist, but I believe these are, and can show per science, these are messengers about the science by the hyper-simultaneous. And Allah's name is a scientific value. And the Trinity is a scientific value. Because we only have an extent of the complete identity of this hyper-simultaneous. But anywhere we have a subject, individual, grouped, and simultaneous, it is inseparable from it as 1/3/5. Identities of possession over it. As is also relative to how, as the explanation of how it is discernible. There are 5 parts of time, for example. The part as itself, that was valued before the order of the finite, or the smallest finite detail. Sometimes nature communicates by showing us sometimes grappling with the smallest finite detail, or the value of what came first is more relevant. And where the relativity of what's the most important question /S is relative and relevant. Where increasingly and how increasingly these are systems A through Z, as value systems note, though, however, too. Tactical ulterior, from the one that uses black pupils, whites of eyes to speak. And with our founders, see whites of eyes, don't shoot. We don't have possession of our name /S. We have no international legal representation at countries A through Z in the counters. See suits and ties. The counters and exceptions have collusion. Oh, let's debate that. With the nature of debate, you guys are, in other words, I don't even know about all that stuff, in other words. Going into the details, I know other ways. For example, I had professors that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They don't know that. They communicate not verbally. They have been influenced, not even realizing. While and how also the judges and prosecutors have been used remotely, planting evidences. All kinds of things manifest at countries A through Z at location /S. Hypercriminally foreign influence. This breaching method demonstrably knew that all voicings for humanity after a certain time, individually grouped them together in defenses of themselves and of their faction, nature, quality aspects, nature itself as criminal insidious. It made the sciences names after making the names at location A through Z. Forced, tricked, hurt, and persuasion is persuaded to use those names and or to not use those names. Criminally foreign influence / hypercriminally foreign influence. 3 ways, specifically consciously to exploit how distinctly, simultaneously, and non-distinctly, 3 ways grouped and 5 ways grouped is that one distinct identity of hyper-simultaneous nature. That is why and how its identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that shows us the value of the participle nature of the gerund and of the predicate as names hyper-additional for a verb is because identities are hyper-additional nature. Where and how it makes more of its identity of forever nature. This English was revealed to teach. And this is more sane too, not just demonstrable. In other words, we have summaries of history. We have summaries of the world wars that left out that left out black pupils, those sick databases, identities of relativity note to ourselves, our names A through Z. Before our founders were born, American suburbs have been designed tactically to denature and roles with slavery, forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded, only allowed, or that person was sent, that body was sentenced, even if that body was a majority of people, and it was accounted for, because it had already sustained grouped tortures, extortion, and enslavement too. All exceptions and exception nature to it employed them to have everyone pretend other for itself too. So no matter how powerful a leader could get, they have to entertain the locations, areas, and states. Criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and means to cause positives as collusions with the overt negatives and with the criminal insidiousness natures of negatives and acts like predicate acts. Since semi-ancient times, people who have been pretending passions and emotions regarding acts and regarding their defenses of their uses of others' names. The styles of logic, guys, readings of the law where you do blame, leaving out the breaching method, black pupils, we're not going to do that. So in other words, the algorithm / S associated with this programming, hyper intelligence. Judge Napolitano has sources that communicate foreign and domestic, but they fail to communicate for why and how nature shows us we are simultaneously bound while simultaneously not. For the same reason / S that we have the same color eyes, well, we have different color eyes at the same time. Its identity, to the extent we could discern, its identity relationship to itself equal with that, and the value of that equal with that. Those 3 are only increasingly valued. The identity of 3 identities of 0 was gaining as themselves. As your identity is gaining, as the selves, as the little identities, parts of your body, individually grouped and simultaneously. Nature loves the simultaneous because it's the hyper simultaneous. Nature loves the individual finite because it is distinct from every other identity of volume, but while not being. It is the only one that way, too. And every identity of volume has a distinct identity relationship to itself. It has only increasing value of that, where value equals value as nature / nature as value. In the opposite sequence. So nature is value / value is nature. I mean, nature is / value is nature. And per the relativity of this is about the identity of hyper-relativity. So the other species bodies of volume, they have quality aspects in nature like two eyes, a nature of consciousness that can communicate even interspecies, species bodies of individual bodies, individual species bodies of individual bodies. And the ancients revealed English to teach demonstrably. It is individual difference / S, grouped difference / S. All grouped differences, plural, come from that individual grouped difference, which is where and how it demonstrates its identity relationship to itself, and only increasing value of that hypernative pure, which instantly shows us simultaneously James Madison's identity theft, and the theft of Native Americans' identity, inseparable from each other. And George Washington is with this. George Washington agreed to use James Madison's plan. In other words, in other words, when they speak about American history, they were raised to blame other things, others themselves, for what caused the courage to break those laws that individually grouped in together were monitored by individual groups and together were involved with a transnational, hyper-archetypal torture, extortion, slavery method. Black pupils. The opposite of extremism. So you have courts that were raised as a certain type of victim / hyper victim through schools that abuse them, lying to them about themselves and about others, having them spread lies. And when that was not true, which a whole bunch of people don't want these things, but black pupils. When we look away from the hyper-evidential, it means that we have to discern black pupils. Hey! Not one has spoke. In other words, the Weathersfield police have wire crime acts and methods that the CIA, if they're not aware of it, because in other words, there are confessions on Facebook involved with this too, and the differences between the police forms. State police families associated with this: Michael Roberts, Mike Pandoff, Ray Reynolds. Teachers associated with them. There's a Harris family involved with Quinnipiac University, a polling campus. When did they poll for us? Black pupils, they speak for us. In other words, those campuses are criminally foreign influence. Their questions are sick, tactically ulterior than those nature tells to ask or to know when asked wrong. See someone's descriptions of why they have emotions or why other people do. They leave out the smallest finite detail. For example, nature has emotions for that function. Look up in the dictionary. I have to do this yet. But no, obviously, I have other means to record it. In other words, I forget that word. But in other words, psychopath, don't forget it. P.S. People see why. This is one of the programs I'm being forced to tell about before I put it secret. Also, the right to keep secrets that companies have. That is one of the things that the breaching method demonstrably employ to keep people roles with torture and pretending other, to keep people roles with the Constitution still abridged, past, and now. 1776, they had slavery entrenched north and south. It wasn't about a tea tax. It's about why our founders had to use James Madison's plan and counter-extort at 13 positions. No one had courage because they had no plan. They had, in other words, that were only psychopaths they had because that's all that was allowed to be propagated and self-valued roles, blaming other things, others, ourselves for that as roles with the criminally foreign influence / hyper-criminally foreign influence. So the beginning of the Old Testament, for example, this is where people jump in who are atheists and who are passionately with the religions, who have collusions on off campuses with predicate acts with facts methods, black pupils. They forge and switch names into branch. They're raised like little sickos because they were abused. They have roles with everything that comes before those courts, all sides of criminal and civil cases, including with overt criminal enterprises, plural, and people with bodyguarding spots in the investigations of such, because the name's next to it too, involved with where and how they keep black pupils. People pretending that anyone had integrity speaking for the law. Nature speaks for the law, in other words. You guys prevent people from calmly getting response because interbranch switch names, forge names. Further, with the principal child offender, rape threats, and other passions crimes with the Facebook pages of the courts, New Britain Superior Court, Harper courts, have passion crimes connected to that. Also, rape threats screamed out at West Hartford locations, New Britain locations, with foreign and domestic military. A whole bunch of people tied to Mazzucato family and his friends with a Jonathan Maiano involved with sequence shifts with them. And medicines crimes with the business houses and businesses next to Hartford Hospital and next to campuses, including fire campuses and other medical campuses. They all run into with their families too to hide life progressions at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. They also plant evidences with the news at the same time to prevent voices. Then they keep a bunch of punks jumping in on people's conversations, looking in databases, using databases. Well, that's what the database says. You guys know that stuff is sick. In other words, you have people pretending to keep the peace and using instances leaving out what came first. And just making up the things on the campuses filmed 24/7. They're replacing what's actually recorded. A whole bunch of people with Central Connecticut State University have roles with an O'Brien family, with Rocky Hill Police, Sandy Hook Newtown Police forms, including in the campuses there, fire campuses, and there's a prison campus there. Involved with medical corruption, foreign and domestic families, involved with a principal child offender, and more involved, and has more involved with the family members and people associated on and off campuses, personally and professionally in other ways, with deans and principals and teachers of the schools and their family members and their neighbors and with their syntax. See, this is all relative to where and to how. No, you don't leave out how the sick, fake integrity of experts A through Z with the law left out black pupils, whites of eyes. In other words, they're blaming us for why and how we went with the coalition to war. They're blaming us by framing Saudis after the attack too, as ones leading up to it with the name Scalora and tomorrow also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with planting evidences on all sides of my house with intelligence community. Fear! Get them on paper, one name and sequence. Retired Weathersfield Police Chief. Fear God. In the military, too. Foreign and domestic. Get on paper, one name and sequence. I'm going to show you how to think, black people. Also, don't, in other words, you want to fight over this way, so right? You're going to leave out, get on paper. Get on paper, one name and sequence. Let me show you this, because the New Britain Superior Court has roles with various natures of unions and roles with untimely deaths, increasingly tied to the same house/S with timed insidious uses of it. Intercities. They make confessions from strangers, too, while planting evidences. Because investigators never stop being used, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought black pupils. You see how these countries rolls with the World Trade Center attack, all kinds of natures of organized crime uncharged, because at the other end of wars, rolls with that torture, extortion, slavery method. Black pupils against everyone. And you got and all, including all exceptions that appear to be a demonstration of the nature of debate. People who that's in other words, what's their premises? They're putting fake premises. They're planting evidences with the news about the World Trade Center attack since. They have Saudis involved with this. What are you doing? Saudi Arabia, give me a response for Elm Street and Rock Hill and Weathersfield now. Let's go. Get on paper. I'm going to show you guys, too. You guys are tactically delusions wrought with readings of books. Then it gets worse when you bring up religions. Then you want to have the audacity to get involved with other people. And what's this? We uses of some anti-Semitism, the special name, while we're black pupils, whites of eyes. We got people stacked in New York City, and we know the suburbs were tactically denatured before our founders were born. And we know like that, we all agree. See, we all agree to other than these polling locations can afford to have Discern. Now one has learned boxing. So you type in the comments of maybe he doesn't see it, Judge Napolitano, because we have the cyber police also involved. Whole bunch of different countries, one from Pakistan too. These are people involved with Tucker Carlson and his campus, Trinity College. And Mr. Waters and his campus involved with this name Khalil. A whole bunch of people at Trinity College recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and that's one of the names that the Weathersfield Police and Whiting Forensics recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the principal child offender and with a Joshua Julian involved with predicate acts on my street with them. Dear God, the cops switching names, forging names. These are ones with the CIA brought up on the Facebook confessions. Also about their roles with the names next to the state judicial branch offices and relative body dumping spots and different reports on it. Fear. In other words, these are ones with investigators every day. You know how sick they are? They were predicate acts with facts. The ones pretending passions and emotions against crimes. Fear God. Fear God. Get them on paper. These are the ones with the emergency room in California. Involved with interstate, the people involved too with the police forms with the borders. That keeps the border used in their logic. But they want to talk calm as psychopaths. They want to use emotions as psychopaths. Fix the fake conversations with me and others. And they attach me to fake conversations with everyone around me since I was a kid. You fear God. Then they go lie to everyone that my family ever knew about me. Fear! Get them on paper so I don't have to explain it. In other words, that's the torture method. You don't play these games, too, because you got people with gangs with threats. They made threats recorded, too, but then pretended other, too, because they do little tricks. They do little tricks so they know, but that's what's written. They're putting fake things in databases. A whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, personally and professionally involved with untimely deaths, with drug cliques on my street, and people from other areas involved with the names with the Weathersfield Police, in other words, and with the guns and different stuff. In other words, even poison threats. Which is there's more people. There's a Bob Chase who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Phil Cololo was involved with him. Then I saw him on my street. His cousins are also involved with the Weathersfield Police, which since I was a kid, they attached me to fake conversations with police And at the police station when I was a kid, I never went to the police station to talk to the police. And the kids who did have conversations with them, I didn't even have conversations. They just brought up the subjects and they told them, gave them affidavits. Some kids, when I was a kid, they put them near me. Then they made they wanted me to go down and talk to them. They had all the kids attached to fake things. It had something to do with the role with the Charlie Bowes and his sister with the Old Town Cafe with a whole bunch of police forms. See, and those spots next to it where James Madison planned in the furtherance of it. George Washington had to counter-extort, leaving slavery entrenched north and south, no, and in Wethersfield, Connecticut, and with the witch trial place right next to it, no. So now we have to ask ourselves, what are witch trials about, even if they're made up? And you have to ask yourself, what is everything in the news about, even if it's made up? Black pupils. Don't forget, it's always about this. So in this game, in other words, evolution science only feels like game/S. So where they speak about economics, in other words, we have me better than free to keep everyone not even needing hunger. That changes everything. So they're keeping the nature psychopath by putting little fake punks on the social media too. They have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes. The lawyers of the FBI, leaders of it, and the Wethersfield police, and they're trapped like this with the CIA. Fear God. Get them up. Don't bring up serious things like the shooting of the President Kennedy, and then play punks and with the nature debate. Oh, well, I know this. Oh, it's personal. In other words, you know that those are racketeering every day. But there's judges planting evidences, pretending they're testing, pretending they're vetting, etc. They're hiding live progressions and confessing others. They have remote uses of mayors and their roles in a whole bunch of other different countries. Then you have to speak their names and they pretend they get all sensitive because there's a hyper foreign that needs that. It needs other things, others, or selves blamed constantly and increasingly, or it needs that body to be sensed, even if that body is a majority of people, even if it is a majority of countries. Black pupils. We have like this, the whole country, the whole species body of individual bodies agrees. And we have the science that prove it. But we have the people that are experts on things that want to use their knowledge of good and evil, to use a phrase from the Old Testament. So you guys are reading the Old Testament and the Quran scientifically exactly the way they tell you not to read it, right in the book, because you have the sciences. You have people who are atheists, and you have the people that are preserving the religions, hiding how the location/s were used. Their fact treatment nature, quality aspects of nature, as criminal insidiousness nature, of positive treatments, negative treatments. Then you guys are going to interpret charity. Then you guys are going to speak for the principles, those 5 ways grouped. That the identity, the hyper simultaneous bound, you're going to keep it stuck stupid. That's why it says only defend that first part of the Quran and only defend that first part of the, and that where it qualifies the person to say that everyone's wrong. And the first part of the Old Testament, where it says only defend right here, and the part for that comes before it, where the names of the people, the sciences will come together. So you guys have that known in the background. You have nature's debate with your students, and you guys are sick. The difference, you guys are making fake differences and valuing that. Because on overall, you make this is an example. In other words, see how these kids, when they're talking with this guy about religions, I see this in video. I have to get an example to get into actual facts. So, but in other words, Judge Napolitano has a guy who reported and recorded, whether he realizes it or not. There was manipulation of the evidences, and the differences of guilt are used to hide. The course of the hyper-evidential, we have to be led by the invisible, hyper-invisible, but still discernible. These aren't real living bodies, FBI, CIA. Former standing chairperson on Racketeering Influence the Corrupt Organization Act. Together we can write an ACE Act, Anti-Hyper-Archetypal Criminal Enterprise Act. Together we can write that and juxtapose means that make the Marshall Plan look like a little game, because that's all it is. because a whole bunch of people, little game players were taught to speak for America because you guys have this, the campus is still breached, still blaming other things, others ourselves for negatives that the breaching method only allowed assigned. Roles with torture, roles with extortion, roles with slavery, roles blaming the causes of it and uses of it worst on other things other than ourselves. And roles since countering it still has collusions to keep that obfuscated / hyper obfuscated. This breaching method needs sick countries using names, individually grouped together. You know, all groupings are going to have the value of humanity because of the value of the species body, bound while simultaneously not. Same reason we have the same color eyes, different color eyes, same time. And exceptions. And exception nature is the cause of which boxing, martial arts, and wrestling, they share an identity grouped and about fighting by the rules. And so, but they have stayed abridged. We're supposed to get the Constitution unabridged. There are countless definitions of the Constitution's abridgments. Sickly, overtly / insidiously at suburbs, let alone New York City, let alone, and sickly distinctly at Hartford, which is a suburban / urban, as it is described by itself online. And per the breaching methods, how it's set up. It was using everyone remotely as criminal insidious natures of positive and negative, therefore identity treatments or non-treatments, right, where simultaneous opposites intended. See, we have to be quality of fact treatment on paper. You'll never have it at location / S. So Mark Violet and Justin Kovinsky, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, sought me out from other parts of town to demonstrate too and confirm. They have roles with O'Brien family with the intelligence community planting identity theft, fraud, slanders, and evidence, federal evidences, crimes, child abuses, elderly abuses, veterans abuses. These are also some KKK black-themed collusion natures out of the state judicial branch offices, out of the state corrections offices, and the conjunctions and adjacents to it. Weathersfield Pizza has a Steven Stocco and has a Maria Fazzino involved with Central Connecticut State University, with people on off the state judicial branch offices, who are also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed military involved with the state capitol and the spots next to it with identity theft, frauds, planting evidences. And with a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed federal evidences crimes, drugs, medicines crimes, putting fake things in people's medical records, and with lawyers. They have lawyers with scams there. They have a whole bunch of people at UConn and their roles with training people to be psychiatry and ones with cops and the military, foreign and domestic, tactically delusions raw. They have the departments like at Central with the same ones, like this name Violet. But these are people with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with his co-defendants and their family members and their neighbors also, timed with the news. WTNH has been planting evidences at corners of streets with their sources and with themselves and with the difference also having been employed. They have remote uses of the judges and prosecutors hiding life progression in such ways all along roads and routes. Dear God, get them on paper, one name and sequence. Don't bring up sacred things like President / Chief who was assassinated. And keep it sick. Because this is also people that are involved with that mirror associated with Mendez with the communications department. And Mr. Moy Mecca and people with international business with the name Scalora and recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with said people with the name DeMoro said it was their cousin. They're involved with the police. They have through time roles with different reported and action and witness roles with various natures of thefts and of transactions between kids. There's something about people who in other words, there's a tried to make a fake communications with me because I never responded to him. The only time he made all these confessions. Then one time, the only time I never tried to contact him at his house. Subby Bajaria. One time I went because they had made a whole bunch of confessions about their roles with names on my street or and near it. They have roles with the FBI. I found out the FBI later and had roles with that same corner and with the witness protection program. Now, see, these are people that have roles with a whole bunch of different countries: Koreans, Italians, who are unmarked police forms, and people with the planting evidences with the medical campuses and the houses and businesses next to it. Harvard Hospital has all kinds of medicines corruption, medical corruption, legal corruption. See, they've been charging people for things that don't even under the guise of healthcare. It's not even the real healthcare. They're creating fake medical conditions and creating real ones. In other words, still, with a whole bunch of people tied to the name Cololo and the Weathersfield Community Center has something to do with all kinds of medical corruption and ones with badges. So let us sweep their minds clear because they're still playing games with what's complicated, what's not about what happened to like this. Where I think y'all should what happened to the president, black pupils. We're going to use the hyper-evidential. We're going to get them on there because in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center, a whole bunch of people are using planting evidences with those names. All sides of that criminal and civil cases are used with the courts. Inside the courts, it was proven they post-dated legal papers from inside the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center to show them that to the panel of judges that these are involved with the police that have been switching names on my street with the name Cololo, and Coloro brought up in their confessions. And on the phone with a Sullivan, they didn't give the whole name. There's the name Sullivan. And in other words, it sounded like a guy, but they said it was a girl. But it sounded like a guy with a cracking voice. In other words, there's also a Daryl Sullivan. I think his name is Daryl Sullivan. He has a wife involved with federal evidence crimes with the FBI and his lawyer and people next to his lawyer's office, including through time. And that's not far from the Harriet Beecher Stowe Mark Twain houses, which are connected there, and next to the state capitol. These are also people that, in other words, get them on paper, pretending passions, emotions, and motivations when they use other people's names. You'll never see how they have the army go like this and something. It has something to do with this. They have them down to the finite, repeating people's names. So Ray Cololo has a whole bunch of people with the military too. With that know my name, I don't know their names. Nick LaPierre, I don't know him. I was around him like for moments. They're trying to make sense. They have something to do with Brian Bonin and their roles with a whole bunch of other countries along Route 3 with people that live next to the state, next to the Weathersfield Community Center, and all along Route 175 through Weathersfield, Newington, and New Britain has something to do with the people in the spots. In other words, these are the military overtly on Facebook and YouTube pretending passions and emotions as little cowards too. Excuse my language. Let's get them on one name in sequence. Let me show you something. Let me show you what so that it might be there are proofs that it might be something to do like Secret Service too with the people that there's a Kerr family that Officer Jerry Miller has been planting evidences with on all sides of my house and with my previous neighbors, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, with a whole bunch of people at the corner of Southstein Highway and Town Line Drive that are involved with the intelligence community, all important ones. People with Pakistan involved with cyber police and medical corruption at Harvard Hospital, with people that lived near me and their rules with untimely deaths and planting evidences with cops. And at the time while they're getting arrested for other things and stuff like that, and all the difference. No, get on paper. They plant evidence on my campus's rules too behind my back. I stay calm and went intercities. They made it at the same time. They brought intercities at the time where I went and brought all these people at once. And they pretend they don't understand people. They attached me to fake conversations with the Slahy family. and I barely had any words at all with that Lombardo woman at Harper Hospital too. She put me in fake communications too, and she put me pretending what I was saying as the guy who's associated with the one of the ones with the drugs and unmarked police forms and the gangs associated with the community center in the Hartford Hospital. They have roles with Afghan leaders in the military too. Hey, get on paper. And what are you doing with the what's his name? Which is he's the FBI director in some courts were planting evidences with the military with a with some child offenders and with a Brian, what's his name? I don't know, Eric Burgess and his neighbor in religious locations and roles with a Joseph Dennis and people with all kinds of with a park near the with West Farms Mall. And there's a Doobie family also involved with the people with the World Trade Center attack confessions and roles with that West Farms Mall. Hey, get them on paper, one name and sequence. And watch the God when they speak about behavior of their own or of others, because their delusion is raw too. I want the McGee guys, and I want his wife's name too. The ones there's different guys switching the name McGee. They have that.